To bring it back to insights, and I'm going to introduce AI into the conversation now, is we can't have a conversation without talking about AI, Jim.
We could, but we're not gonna.
We're not go. Sorry, now I've gone there. You know, do I pull back or not? Welcome to the CX and Culture Connection, the podcast for business leaders who are looking to accelerate value from their investments in customer experience and culture together. I'm excited to talk today to Jim Cuene, a friend that I've worked with over the years, and I'm really excited to talk with him about what he's doing at Fahren. And thanks for joining, Jim.
Yeah, thanks so much. I'm excited about this.
Yeah, as we jump in, why don't we say hello to Fahren? That's your fun name for your website, and share a little bit more about the company and why you launched it.
Yeah, so Fahren is a consultancy in Minneapolis. We work with teams that are in transition. We typically get hired by marketing leaders or product leaders to help them accelerate that transformation that they're trying to make with their team. Typically, our clients are either making a strategic shift or an organizational shift in as part of that strategy shift. And they're looking for support in three ways from Fahren. One is strategy, so everything from product strategy, go-to-market strategy, even organizational strategy. We also help them get connected with interim and fractional leadership teams on the marketing and product side to help them accelerate. And then we also can help fill the roles permanently with an executive recruiting offering. So for us, hitting for the cycle and really helping companies bridge from where they are now to where they want to be includes providing some strategic support up front, a short-term team to get them over the hump, and then helping them build out that permanent leadership team that would drive home the change.
Thank you. So you hit on the word bridge on your website. You say for companies at the crossroads, Fahren is the bridge. So that means they're on a journey. You're helping them get on make progress on the journey. So talk a little bit more about what type of journeys, you see your clients you're working with on. Are they earlier in the journey? Are they earlier stage? What types of journey companies are these, and what type of journeys are they on?
Yeah, we're really fortunate in that we work with organizations that are trying to go someplace different. They're very much focused on a future that is attractive, and they have ambitions to get there. And our job is to help them make that path doable. And the journeys that they're typically going on are, we're trying to evolve the way that we work. We're trying to evolve our culture. We're trying to elevate or transition the team or unlock some developmental opportunities for the team. So that's the org side. But in reality, the most engaging and enjoyable part of our work, and this will sound familiar to you, Matt, is working with bold, ambitious leaders that are trying to do something special. The folks that we get the most excited about working with are ones that are trying to leave a mark on their organization. In some cases, they're trying to leave a mark on the industry, but ultimately they're there to help create the right kind of work experience for their teams so that their teams can do their best work. So our job is to be there for the time that they need us to help them bridge from where they are now to where they're trying to get to, both at the organizational, the leader, and the team level.
We're kindred spirits. We are helping clients make their journey real and helping them, guide them on the journey, help them be successful on the journey, build the right team to make the journey successful. It's exciting to hear you talk about that.
Well, yeah, and just sometimes we have to be honest, given the roles that we play as external catalysts to the organizations that we work with. Sometimes we're there to also help the leaders that we talk to get through the ups and downs of being a leader of change. There's value in just being an open mind to share stories with. There's value in sharing some wisdom, and sometimes you just need to hear folks talk about how hard it is to make change happen.
Well, I once, I probably read this so many times, it's hard to remember where it comes from, but that change is about the stories we tell ourselves. So memory is the stories we tell ourselves, and leadership is inspiring and in getting others to change and helping them through the change. So storytelling is key, and being able to share stories with other people to access their experiences, to get support. Everything you're saying resonates about, how do you actually have a partner for change to get someone through the journey?
Well, and just to riff on that a little bit, one of the methods that we often use when we're starting a new project, whether it's a strategy project or onboarding an interim leader or starting an executive search, is what is the success story that we want to tell 12 months from now, after we're done with the majority of this work? When we tell the story of how successful we've been, what are the beats of that story? Who's going to be the hero? What will be the adversity? How will we have overcome that? So we try to actually take apart I don't want to call it the hero's journey, that's a little cliched, but we try to actually imagine what that story will be. And then the second method that we use is, what is the story that we'll have to talk about if it doesn't go well, and how do we avoid that? So I'm glad that you're talking about the story and the story we tell ourselves, because that's actually a really useful method.
Mm-hmm. Well, you remind me, you used the phrase hero's journey. I taught a training class a number of years ago at PwC. I used to lead the New York office for booze, and was involved in a lot of our training programs, and we helped develop a training program for leadership, and actually we used the hero's journey, and the whole point was to get you to think of the journey. And it's clear it's affected me because I've named my company JourneySpark, right? To spark. And it's actually not just the customer journey, but your company's on a journey and your employees are on a journey. It's a triple metaphor. So I really believe that it's a journey we're all on. And you want to make the customer and the client the hero, not yourself. And so the hero's journey is actually important, about thinking about that's why I love personas and journey maps and things like that, because you're putting yourself in their shoes and you're thinking about, how do you create an emotionally engaging experience for people along that journey?
Yeah, if everything goes well, we will be minor characters in somebody else's heroic story. We do not want to be the villain, and we definitely don't want to be the heroes, but we want to be good supporting characters. The other way the stories that we tell ourselves come into play, at least in the work that we do, and I'd love to hear you talk about this, is the leaders that we work with are generally trying to do something big and different. And often, as we're working with them and their teams, we have to remind them that there are stories that you tell yourself about your organization and about your business and about your customer and about your market that you have to forget. In other words, some of the most important stories are the ones that you stop telling yourself so that you can tell yourself the new story that will guide your future work. So in other words, don't play the old tapes, don't replay the old stories, recreate the story or invent the new story that you want to actually use to guide your transformational work.
Yeah, there's so much in what you just said, Jim, that resonates with me. Everyone's on their journey is facing a question of, how do I build motivation and commitment to change, right? And how do you spark that? And a lot of attention gets focused on the mindsets about how do we engage people around the purpose, around the vision, around the reasons for changing, about the story we're telling, about why to change. And that's all super important because it sets the context. And without the context, you can't. And one of my recent guests, Norman Wolf, talks about context energy, the author of The Living Organization, a very powerful framework around setting the context. If you don't set the right context, nothing. It's like I was a wrestler. If the body follows where the head goes, right? So if you can't, if you think about just things flow in a certain direction, if you don't set the context, it's very hard to get everyone to move in the right direction, right? But that's actually not enough. Context setting and storytelling can be really powerful, and motivational speaking can be powerful. But the energy won't flow if the behavior doesn't change. So the context setting points you in the right direction, and telling the stories points you in the right direction, but the behaviors have to change too. And it's actually arguably just as important, because you can act your way into new mindsets. It's much harder to change mindsets by talking to people than it is to get them to shift their behavior. And what you're just talking about with storytelling is that the negative behaviors get ingrained. And this is what happens in cultures, is the strengths become your weakness and the negative behaviors take over. And then the way to change negative behaviors is not just to shift people's mindsets, it's to substitute positive behaviors. And then the positive behaviors crowd out the negative behaviors. So storytelling is one method of reinforcing not only the mindset shifts, but the behavior adoption, and to showcase the right behaviors.
Well, and good stories need good action. And one of the roles that our people play at Fahren is we come from the outside to model the behaviors and bring the methods and usage of the tools that our clients seek and need to accomplish the change that they aspire to. So it's one thing to have the heart to do it, but it's also important to know how to do it. And so we believe that our job is to model the cultural norms, to model the behaviors, and to explain and teach the methods. So when we are talking to our prospects and folks that might be good partners for us, our story is that the folks that we'll bring to your team have done it. They've led it. They've led up. They've led down. They've hired. They've fired. They've explained it in the boardroom, and they've taught it on the ground. And that is a companion to the big strategy that our leaders are often sort of driven by. And so we sort of also bridge between PowerPoint and production, and PowerPoint and progress. So that action and that behavior is a way to make the bridge from the ambition to the actual execution.
I love the way you're talking about openness, and like you're bringing new ideas in, you're bringing new talent in, you're bringing new behavior in, and the blending of the people inside the company with the people you're bringing into the company help shift the behavior in the company. So it's in a very early stage company, part of the strain is just, how do I grow? How do I find the talent? How do I build the team? But with other companies, as they're continuing to grow, the question is, how do I retain that openness and bring in the right talent, so as I grow, I'm actually sustaining my energy and not getting stuck?
Yeah. And Matt, I bet you see this a lot now with JourneySpark, maybe more so than you did in your more mainline consulting days. You're probably often hired to be a culture injection. You're bringing knowledge, you're bringing experience, you're bringing behaviors, but you're also probably being sought as a way to inject the right sort of things into the culture. How do you manage that? Like when you know that you're being brought in to sort of bring certain things to the team, but at the same time you have to deliver. So how do you manage both of those at the same time?
Thanks for the question, Jim. It's personal motivation for me, and why I left to form JourneySpark Consulting is that one of the things I enjoyed the most in working on customer experience and culture, with a lot of clients, was being a catalyst for change. And I really have always enjoyed this connection, the CX and culture connection between customer experience and culture, and having an impact with companies to help coach and guide executives and their team, and feeling proud of the progress we made, driving real change. There were a couple things I felt like I could enjoy more and have more impact outside than inside a big firm. One of them was the chance to work with more emerging companies. Okay, so companies of different sizes, which is harder to do in a big consulting firm. And the second is to be able to work with more companies at once versus 10 to 15 clients in a year, to work with a larger number of clients, and to shift my role to be more of a guide and a coach to empower and develop their teams. And one thing I've learned as I've gotten older, I'm 52, but I've learned a few things over the years, is that you have more impact coaching and developing others than trying to do everything yourself. And so I really enjoyed helping build and develop the client's leadership capacity versus trying to do stuff for them. So that's been a personal motivation, just kind of reinforce this CX and culture connection. A lot of things you're doing at Fahren around working with earlier stage companies and helping them grow and develop their leaders and injecting new ideas and helping them catalyze culture shift. Like that's I share that passion, and that's why I'm so excited we're collaborating together.
Yeah, on our best days, we can keep the inspiration high. We can keep the leaders that are fired up about the future, like leaning into that. On our worst days, we're doing it for teams that don't have the time to do it. You need to do both, but I too am drawn towards sort of the front edge of supporting and inspiring and maybe enabling leaders that are trying to do something big.
Yeah, and just one of my next questions then is, you've also come from a background, being at a larger company. Number of years when we first met, you were leading the digital team at General Mills, right? And where you've now shifted to work outside of the big company environment to be a guide and a coach working in part of the team as a fractional, right? And helping grow their talent at earlier stage companies. What's been the biggest change for you going from the big company to more of the earlier stage companies in your focus?
Well, you're right. I've been very fortunate. I've gotten to work with a couple incredible teams at American Express, which became Ameriprise, and also at General Mills. And then in our time, in my time with Fahren and the company that I was at beforehand, we've worked with some of the very biggest orgs. And one of our clients right now is, I won't say who it is, but it's a Fortune 10 company, and very, very good work happening there. But you're right. I'm whether it's intentional or it's just the way things have worked out. We've moved Fahren more towards the world of smaller, faster, more agile organizations, and the reasons for that are both personal and professional. I think one is the pace of change is faster with smaller organizations. The scope of the impact is going to be bigger with smaller organizations. And the ability to actually see leaders develop is much clearer in these smaller organizations because the management cycles are faster. So in a lot of ways, the feedback is more immediate and the rewards are a little bit more immediate. You had asked what's different and maybe what's the same. What we're seeing with the smaller orgs is that the leaders are much more focused on the consumer. They're definitely following the changes in consumer behavior and sort of the consumer mindset, and they've got a more nuanced understanding of the different folks that they're supporting and the different consumers that they're working with. What I'm seeing, and this is not a knock on the larger organizations, but there's also a higher commitment to doing the right thing for the consumer first versus trying to drive a program that is more politically palatable inside. So as these leaders are oriented towards the consumers, they're very much focused on like what is actually going to be the right thing. Because if we get it right for the consumers, it's going to be right for the business, which you know better than I do, isn't always sort of the first thought inside of larger organizations. And the other thing that I'm noticing is that while it's harder to get it, there's a higher demand for consumer insights and data that will help these leaders stay closer to the consumer. Ultimately, I like what you're doing with your consultancy because I think the real business strategies today are about creating differentiated customer experiences. The experience is the strategy, and the delivery models and the sales models and the distribution models and the org models are downstream. And I think that the companies that are innovating and winning and growing faster are focused on the consumer and delivering those differentiated experiences. And we're seeing that more with smaller orgs, and it's more fun.
Well, I mean, just looking at the data, one thing that I've been fascinated with over the last couple decades is if you look across different categories, or food and beverage, or health and beauty, or other categories, all the growth is the emerging companies. So the big it's not that there aren't big companies that are growing, but if you look at the kind of the growth minus the declines, and the net growth is overwhelmingly driven by the smaller enterprises, and the bigger ones buy them, right? So this is not a new phenomena, but I think it's accelerated over the last few decades because of the impact of the internet and mobile and now AI is actually reduces the barriers to entry. People can ride on others' rails. Talent can be more mobile. There's more gig economy. There's all these factors that undermine traditional barriers to entry. So this has always been true, but it's even more true now. And like the IAB did a report about the impact of emerging brands, and so this is a big shift. And bigger companies, as a result, face even more pressure to behave like small companies. I've always enjoyed, that was actually why I helped launch Booz Digital when I was at Booz & Company, was to help and that's how we first met, actually, was to help bigger companies behave more like smaller companies.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And help bigger companies sort of work and think and act like media companies, which was...
That's correct.
An important thing back at the time.
Yeah, everybody is a publisher. And experiences, I actually started on the media side and then moved to digital and transformation. And then I realized those are actually experiences. And I shifted my lens from kind of digital to insights and experience and culture, because that's how you deliver the change. Another thing that was really interesting, what you're talking about, is kind of the focus on experience as the primary way to create value. I gotten involved, Jim, recently in the MMA Global, the marketing trade association to help marketers, architect the future of marketing, and helping drive, innovation and thought leadership and community for the members there around customer experience and data and things like that and insights. And it's fascinating that the research and the conversations with the members of this trade association, like 1,000 of the world's leading marketers, they're saying that customer experience is as important, if not more important, than traditional brand approaches. That the way to create value is through experience. But doing that requires a huge shift in the way they build insights, the way they build products, the way they build, digital, the way they train their people. It's a big shift to actually deliver on that promise of a great experience. It's not just web and mobile development or advertising.
Do you think that, so I don't want you to call anyone out or throw anyone under the bus, but do you think they have a well-nuanced understanding of what they mean when they say customer experience? They're not just talking about price in the actual physical experience with the physical product, are they?
I think that there are marketers who get it, that experience goes beyond the product, and that it needs to go beyond the product, and it needs to include your people, because your frontline employees are part of delivering experience, unless you're Netflix, right? Like, there's very few companies that have a purely digital experience. Even Amazon has physical experiences now, right, with fulfillment experience and Whole Foods and so forth. So I think a lot of the marketers realize that customer experience is about, what I call like a beyond the product, beyond the service experience. In my book that's by the time this podcast airs, actually, my book will be up on Amazon, the CX and Culture Connection. And has the same name as the podcast to reinforce the importance of this to me and the audience.
On brand, Matt, on brand. Yeah,
it's there's an idea in here, Jim, that I've called the experience collage. And my mom is an artist, and this influenced me. She's a collage artist. She's a part of the Society of Layerists, and experiences have layers. And I've, of course, being consultant, I've created a 2x2. which is, think of it like a canvas, right? The idea is you want to fill the canvas. Don't just paint in the bottom left corner, fill all four corners of the canvas. The bottom left corner is the functional usage experience. So the functional experience of the product or service for the individual. So it's an individual experience focused on the functional benefits of the product and service. You can call this usage. Okay. And that's valuable. And you can do a lot of UX, UI, you can do continuous improvement, but it doesn't create emotional connection yet if you're just focusing on the functional experience of your product or service for an individual. You need to create meaning, which is moving to the bottom right of the 2x2 of the shared canvas. Meaning is about the stories we tell, it's about the unconscious, it's about the metaphors we tap into. You can have it, and a lot of shopper marketing and category insights are about understanding how to create deeper meaning for your brand with the consumer shopper in their life moments. And so designing and building an experience that's in that bottom right quadrant is about delivering meaning as opposed to usage. If you go to the top left, it's a shared experience about your product or service, and the top right is community. And actually, the most powerful brands build communities about their brand. You look at Nike, Apple, Southwest, Method, Disney. These are all communities around their brands. And they're intentionally building meaning and shared experiences. And an experience collage is like a journey. They're layers, they're ongoing experiences that you're creating. And many of the pieces in your collage and how they fit together, and you're constantly adding to them, they're actually the experiences of your people with each other and with the customer. It's a human to human thing, not just a product.
Wait, what's in the upper right-hand quadrant?
That's community. It's a shared meaning. So it's both shared and meaning at the same time. Therefore, it's community.
And what's on the left-hand upper quadrant?
It's sharing. So it's a shared experience that's focused on the product or service. So if you consume the product if you go to a restaurant together, that's a shared service experience.
I love it. That's awesome. So I wish I had that a couple different times in recent memory. That would be a really powerful way to get at. It would be a really powerful tool to come at an opportunity and a problem that I was helping a client through. I'm going to use an old example, but where I thought you were going to go with the experiences and I think I can share this because it's a long time ago, but I was partnered at General Mills with a couple really great leaders, and we were talking about the customer experience in a bunch of different ways, and ultimately we ended up using the jobs to be done methodology as a way to get in. And we realized early on that when somebody buys a cake or a box of cake mix from Betty Crocker, the job isn't to make a cake. The job is to have an amazing party. And so the experience that we have to deliver starts with the thing in the box, but it also has to extend to delivering on the birthday party or the party. And what I love about this matrix that you just shared is this would have been a really useful tool to help articulate what are all the things that we have to do to check off all of the boxes or to really fill out the collage. I can completely see how this method would work. It'd be great.
I mean, this is an extension of approach that people use today, which is personas and journeys and building insights. And what the way I've applied this with clients is when you build your personas and journeys, you then start asking, what are the themes that are emerging for those experiences and where do they fall on the collage? Once you start thinking about the themes and the insights, then you can actually start saying, well, how could we do, what are we doing today? What could we do differently that would reinforce that emotional connection, and put collage pieces down in different quadrants and say, these are additional things we could do to proactively create the experience we want. And then how do we have to align the organization to deliver that?
Totally makes sense. And what is also really powerful about this, and I'm sure it's in the book that I am looking forward to reading when it comes out, is that not only will this help drive ideas and ideation and the co-creation that I'm sure your clients are doing, but there's also essentially a built-in rubric here. You can use this to go from good, better, best. Good is driving the thing in the lower left. Better is the things that you do that drive the upper left and bottom right. But best is when you are delivering on the thing in the upper right. Classic 2x2, but it's also a really powerful way for the team to evaluate whether they're really delivering a good experience, not just any experience.
100%. And your culture needs to reinforce that community too. You can build a movement in your company that actually reinforces. Ultimately, it's a community you're building in your company to deliver those shared experiences for employees and for your customers.
Well, and the other, not to nerd out on this, but the corporate strategist in me can't stop. What I like about this canvas, the collage approach, is that it's a way to shift the conversation out of what is the ROI on this, and looking at immediate short-term effectiveness, immediate short-term efficiency, to something that is really much more about effectiveness for the end consumer. And you have to balance those if you're going to be good across all of these quadrants, if you're really going to deliver on the collage.
100%. And the other thing, to bring it back to insights, and I'm going to introduce AI into the conversation now, is we can't have a conversation without talking about AI, Jim.
We could, but we're not going to.
We're not going. Sorry, now I've gone there. Do I pull back or not? I'm going to bring it up in the context of insights. So as opposed to automating tech, and reducing workload or driving personalized real-time actioning, which are all valuable things you can do with AI, I'd like to focus attention on insights for a minute, right? Which is, there's all these conversations that occur that historically were not digital. They were word of mouth, they were in the store, they were friend to friend, and now digital people that leave footprints. And you can mine these conversations. So the call center, the social media, these are increasingly visible, mineable conversations with your unstructured data. Your conversations in messaging with customers, conversations in social, conversations, even Zoom meetings in a B2B context are now a source of data. The metaverse eventually will become a source of data. It's not just content, it's actually data. So I started learning over the years that first it was with reviews that you can actually, and social media, you can mine these for insights. They're not just action, they're insights. And that's, I think there's the power of AI now, and I've done this with some clients, is you can actually start to measure and add more meaning to what's happening along your experience collage and start creating custom KPIs that you can track that map to your experience collage with the AI using unstructured data. And think of it as in brand health, we used to use tracker surveys and things like that to track your brand health, or attributes of your brand. If you decide in your collage, this is what I want, you can actually listen for it and start gathering insights with AI and synthesizing using platforms like Qualtrics, for example.
I can only imagine what's coming at us as the tools emerge and as they evolve and as they mature. And as the compute power underneath them ramps up, I still think we're in the early days of that. And what I love about what might be coming is that it will create more inputs for good strategists to make better decisions. What I worry about is that it's going to let strategists off the hook a little bit, and it's going to give a false sense of confidence over what the right thing to do is. I still believe, until we're all replaced by robots, that human judgment is going to be ultimately the thing that will deliver better experiences. But I do get excited about the kind of tools and inputs that good strategists can use to create better experiences for their users.
I do not mean to imply, thank you for that AI and analytics will replace human empathy, human intuition, human judgment. It will augment it, it will complement it. Along your experience collage, along with the way you're engaging iteratively in your organization, there's going to be a uncountable number of moments where people need to make decisions in the moment with the customer, in teams working on things. There need to be decisions made, and you're not always going to have the perfect data. And in fact, having these insights should be something that the teams use to make decisions versus it makes it for them. It's like in an agile process, you want to give the teams more and more insights so they can make better decisions.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And I'm excited about better data, more of the right data, more frequently available to us to make better decisions, for sure. You just might have heard a little of my own anxiety about the age of AI sneak out in my comment. My concern for what might happen to us as the machines get smarter and smarter and smarter.
So I think a lot of this is AI will be a companion. I had a podcast guest, Amaresh Tripathi, and I talked about his business and the AI companion. I think he's totally on the right track with the AI companion. He used to lead analytics at PwC. That's how we knew each other. And now he's got this startup with 20 plus employees building AI companions for people, for personas. And I think it's kudos to him. Really good idea to apply AI to be a companion to people rather than to replace them, and to help people make better decisions or deliver an easier, better experience to people because they have the right information at the right time.
I think the co-pilot is the right metaphor. Companion's a good metaphor. Decision support as the primary strategic objective makes total sense. I'm also, not to sidebar us too much, but I'm also coming at it from the perspective of working with media buyers that are more and more frequently relying heavily on things like PMax and Google and all of the AI-driven tools in Meta and other platforms. And what's happening is the tools are starting to make a lot of decisions about allocation and increasingly about creative, and people are starting to lose their touch for what is working and why, because they're sort of giving over what had been their decisions over to the machines, because historically, in general, the machines are driving better results. But the folks on the front edge are starting to lose their sense of why the results are improving, because it's turned into the black box. And I get concerned about those sorts of decisions being given over when it comes down to qualitative things like the nature of an experience with the brand. And so a little bit of my anxiety is related to folks losing the touch for what works for the consumers because the computers are making all the decisions.
I think what we're both saying, and there needs to be a balance of art and science, right? The art never replaces the science never replaces the art. The science needs to help the art in us rather than eliminate the art in us. And that's why I like, the experience collage metaphor, because it's reinforcing the artistic aspect of it, but we want lots of data science. We want lots of rigor to give us the insights that we can use to be artists better.
Yeah, and what's nice about that collage is that it has got the qualitative piece built in. The qualitative in sort of soul is the wrong word, but the idea of meaning and community and delivering on that built into that collage is a really powerful thing. So I love it.
Jim, it's been a lot of fun. Always enjoy our conversations. I'm looking forward to collaborating more together. What can our audience do to learn more about you other than going to hellofahren.com? What would you recommend they do if they want to get in touch with you or learn more about what you guys are doing?
Check out our website, hellofahren.com. You can find me on LinkedIn, Jim Cuene. The spelling of my last name is a little wonky, so Cuene. We also have a new newsletter on Substack called Business Drivers. It's written for folks that are driving change inside of their organization. You can sign up there on Substack. That's the best place to find us.
Awesome. And I will certainly promote this podcast to get the word out about you. And I look forward to doing other stuff together in the future to help create value for the audience.
Yeah, thank you so much for letting me be on. Matt, every time we talk, I come off of the call with my brain on fire, and this is another one of them. You just have got so much experience and so much knowledge, and you do such a good job of transferring it that it's hard not to get inspired listening. So thanks.
Thanks, Jim. The feeling's mutual. I enjoy working with people like you, and the collaboration, the energy is what makes it all fun. So thanks for your time and being such a fun person to work with. I'm looking forward to taking that forward together.
Awesome.
Have a great day, everyone, and I hope this sparks some great ideas for you.